On this week's episode of Be More Super, the podcast, we've got a real treat. I'm a personal fan of this star. Not only has he been a vampire, he's been a Marvel superhero, and even the Master Chief himself. Please welcome to the show, Daniel Cudmore.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. I am fine. How is everything where you are? Because you're born in Vancouver, but do you live there now?
Yeah, well, born just outside of Vancouver in a town called Squamish, which is an hour drive up the road. I've been back and forth between Vancouver and Los Angeles pretty much majority of my career. I lived down there with my wife for almost 3 years. But the market is everywhere but Los Angeles. You gotta go there for the major meetings, the large auditions, but ultimately you've got to be in the secondary markets where they actually film, and that's Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, Atlanta, places of that. And it was a no-brainer for us. We wanted to come up here. We wanted to start a family, and the amount of work up here is usually quite busy, but right now, obviously, with the pandemic, things have slowed right down to a halt.
Yeah, of course. And obviously, you've got a family, you've got kids. Are the schools not? I think you've got 2 kids. Would they be old enough to be at school? Or
my little girl will be 4 in October.
Right, okay.
My little man's going to be a year and a half in a few days. We had our little girl in preschool, but that runs on the same curriculum as the regular K to 5, K to 12 schools here.
Yeah.
And so that stopped because it was attached to a rec center, and that's where they held it. And the rec center is all shut right down. So we've been 6 months all cooped up.
Yeah. And now we are teachers ourselves. I've got a 6-year-old little girl and a
Right.
2.5-year-old little girl as well.
Oh, wow. So you know.
Oh, do I know? Do you know
Yeah.
what? I was watching an interview with you at a Galaxy Con, and you was talking about sleep and lack of sleep, and the fact that you enjoy going to conventions because you get your 7 hours of sleep. How's your sleep since all this is going on?
They're not really existent. I don't really sleep, but you know what? I chose this, and it's funny because I think when you're deep in the thick of it, as you know, it's exhausting, and you're tired, and you don't necessarily want to complain because sometimes people just don't understand. And but I think in the grand scheme of things, it's always just such a small blip on the radar in terms of life. And in like everything, we always look back in retrospect and go, "Oh, do you remember those days when they were little?" And you quickly forget that you never slept the whole time.
And just out of curiosity, I always ask other parents as well, how long does it take you to get out the house to go somewhere, especially with your girl, your lad and your girl being at the age that they are? How long in average does it take you to get them dressed and get out the door?
Depends what kind of attitude the kids have that morning. It can vary. Sometimes they're good if it's something that is an incentive for them, if we're going something fun for them. But if it's not, it can take forever.
And I can remember the days of just getting my stuff and getting out the door within seconds. But you know what? I wouldn't change it for the world, because kids are gifts, and they are our future. I'm not going to break into song lyrics, but they are our future. So
you could if you wanted to.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I've had a long day.
Yeah, fair enough.
So let's talk about your career. So how's auditioning going for you at the moment? Because, you know, with the restrictions in place, is it a lot of recorded auditions?
Yeah. So, I mean, my auditioning process up here is 60-40 things that are sent off to going into the room up here. So I'm used to the recording process, but I had a group of really talented actors who do private coachings and record stuff with me, and I had a separate room where I would go and do that, and that was always really nice because you can sort of really immerse yourself in the role. Whereas now, I'm recording when the kids go to sleep, which is usually around 8 o'clock at night, and I'm right below them in our house, trying to not be too loud, but certain scenes dictate. And I've got, you know, a ring light and my camera, and it's changed. It's much more of a challenge. I have staring at me right now a 10-page audition that I need to learn somehow and stuff into my brain, and then record when both kids are sleeping. So it's usually late at night, and by the time I'm done, I'm exhausted. I don't want to move.
No, fair enough. So let's talk about the figure that's behind me on the screen.
Oh, that little guy.
Yeah, that little guy. So X-Men, absolutely awesome franchise, really is. And did you ever think when growing up that you were going to be a Marvel superhero at some point?
No. The funny thing about acting for me was it was something that I loved in high school, but I was also playing a large amount of sports. And so I was bouncing back and forth. And it was never anything that I ever thought I was going to do. And when I ended up getting back from university and I was back in the city and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do in my life, I didn't realize the industry was that large in Vancouver at the time. And so I started auditioning knowing how much fun I had in high school with plays and theater sports and drama class and everything I was doing. And I, fortunately, but kind of unfortunately in a way, I got really successful quickly, but without really having the true knowledge of all the things I needed. That being said, I've really dove into it. But when I landed the role of Colossus, I was, blown away because I watched the comics as a kid and I loved them, even though I don't want to get half of them because I have to run home for them after school. But it was one of those things where it was a very steep learning curve.
Yeah. And you started out playing rugby, which is a great sport, which as Brits we do enjoy. We have that debate quite often, which one's tougher, rugby or American football?
Oh, it's rugby. I played both. I played college football.
Yeah. I mean, I played rugby over here. I was a prop, a tight end prop. And I stopped because one of the games, the scrum went up and my head went down and my chest just twanged and I couldn't breathe for about 10 minutes. It scared the hell out of me. So I stopped.
Fair enough.
So what actually got you into acting then? Because, you know, from rugby, you know, did you always want to go into this industry?
Well, I think in high school I was a bit of a class clown and probably a bit of a jackass to a lot of my teachers, and so they were like, you know, get out of here, go to drama class where you'll be rewarded for that behavior. And I fell in love with the just make believe and losing yourself and having fun and being goofy and being dramatic. And when I got back, I sort of thought, you know, I was kind of lost in what I wanted to do, whether I wanted to go back for school because I had only done 2 years of university. And I thought, hey, maybe I'll just do a year, audition on the side, see how that goes, see if I can make a run of it. And then at some point, maybe I'll have some more insight into where I want to go. But I just I fell in love with the industry, even though it comes with its own massive amounts of challenges, but it's also ultimately greatly rewarding. So it's just it's weird as people see me and they assume right away that, oh, you know, why didn't you go be a pro athlete or something? And I'm like, well, that's a whole other story and a large amount of luck involved being a professional athlete. But
yeah,
I love what I do, and I think I like not waking up on a Sunday being barely able to get out of bed too.
Yeah. I mean, with the exception of a few commercials, X2 was your first movie. You know, what was your first day on set like, being on your first ever movie and it being, you know, how big it was? Because obviously it was already established with the first X-Men movie. How was it like on your first day?
I think obviously I was excited and nervous, but I think at the same time I'm naive, so I think that was kind of a bonus in a way that I didn't really know what to expect, and I think I went with the old school mentality of just not using my mouth to talk and just listening, just being quiet and just trying to observe everything and watch. You've got masters at work, and who have, you know, Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart, Halle Berry, Hugh Jackman, Famke Janssen. I mean, the list goes on. James Marsden, and they all have massive resumes under the belt. So I thought, hey, what's a better way than just sitting here and observing and just watching and seeing them at work and try to sort of emulate that. But yeah, at the same time, like, you know, there are things looking back that I wish I had the ability to say, I want to do this and I'd like to do that. But at that time I was like, yep, okay, sure, whatever you guys need, like, I'm there. You know, I'm very low on the totem pole here, and I'm ready to just have some fun. So it was quite the experience, to say the least.
And Colossus, as you know, he's built like a tank. He is muscles on muscles. So before taking the part, were you already in that shape, or did you have to really, you know, hit the gym?
I was already in pretty good shape at that time. I had just got back from college. That's where I was playing American football. And so I was quite bulky and big. And, you know, I tried to change my workout as much as I could to sort of get a little bit more like the character as much as I could. But again, the timeline between getting the role and when we started shooting was pretty quick. So I couldn't really change the body all that much. But yeah, it's one of those tricky things where you can lose yourself in trying to be a mirror image of the character and forget that there's whole layers involved in the character, and the outward appearance is only just a small part of it. But it is such a polarizing part when it comes to everyone who was a fan of the comics and knowing him as that character and that size.
Yeah. I mean, getting ready for the part as well, did you have a trainer, or was it a case of you were left to your own devices?
A little bit of column B.
Yeah. Because the thing is,
it's depending. I mean, the movie industry is funny. Like, if you have, I'd say if you're high enough on the totem pole, if you are high enough character-wise, then there will be that available to you. But again, that's something you have to negotiate into your contract. For me, who was more of a lower end character in terms of the amount of time in the film and when I'm on set, it was more or less, hey, like, this is your role, so, you know, do whatever you can to bring it to life. And so it was more on me to be like, okay, then time to go to the gym.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing with stars, is that you see them on screen in absolute perfect shape, and what a lot of people don't realize is that, you know, these big stars, you know, they've got 3-4 months of non-stop working out. They've got a dietitian. I think Chris Pratt is an example, because he's very, you know, active on social media, and I know on previous parts he's put a post out saying, "What's my snack?" And, you know, it's all macros and everything like that. So, you know, I wish I could get a lead role in a big movie and have.
It is. I mean, that's the tricky thing about it. Like when you're watching a film and you see, you know, it used to be all about the women. Women had to be in this crazy, you know, unrealistic image of what a woman looks like, and now it's shifted over to the men. Now we're supposed to look like comic books, and, you know, okay, if you got the right amount of time, you've got the right dietitian involved, you've got the right steps happening, and you give yourself the time, your body can change. But it is a full-time job. Like, to look the way that Hugh Jackman did, he was fasting, he was eating every, I think, hour and a half, he was working out twice a day, he didn't have any sugar for 6 months. And the one scene in Days of Future Past where he's shirtless, he literally did that for 6 months just for that one scene. And he fully dehydrated himself the night before. He overloaded with sugar, so he was extremely vascular and his veins were popping out. And then he had to do this whole scene all day long in the heat and fight, and he was damn near almost passing out. So did he achieve what he wanted? Yeah, but I mean, like, that's hard on your body. So
yeah, and I suppose he got a very good paycheck for
sure,
going through all that. I mean, it's not exactly like Christian Bale, because he's like one of these actors that, you know, from The Machinist to, I mean, that guy. I mean, it can't be healthy for you. But
it's not. It's not. I know of that transition he had through people that worked with him, from The Machinist to the Batman, and he could barely run 10 feet.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you won't see the result of that in later life. But
No.
so, what's your fondest memory of working on the X-Men movies?
I think it was probably just the scope of it. I
Yeah.
think that it's a moving village. It's a moving city. It's massive, and I think what would be the fondest memory would be all of that talent and all of those big, large names who have immense careers and immense talent and everything they've done being so down to earth. And that's what really struck me. And that's what really sort of, I think I took from those movies, especially working nowadays, is that there shouldn't be any ego in the room. There should be hard work and there should be concentration on what you're doing.
Yeah.
And if sometimes disagreements come out of trying to make the best product, then that's fine. But there shouldn't be my ego walks in the room first and then I follow. And I think that's something that I will always take with me. I take it from a lot of films that I've worked with. I've worked with, indirectly with Will Smith. And that was another thing. Like I remember working out in the gym that he had put together for a movie. And I said, hey, like, you want your solo time? I'll leave. He said, no, man, no, do your thing. And he was so genuine with every person, joking, having a good time. And they're like, all right, we're about to roll. And it was boom, job, let's do it, into it. And then back into who he is. And that was, things of that you watch as a young actor, you go, okay, all right,
Yeah.
we don't need ego in this. There shouldn't be anything. It should be about making the best product possible and bringing all of your skills to the table.
And which one was your favorite to be in?
It's a tough one to answer because I think the first one has so many strong memories because of going from relative obscurity to all of a sudden thrust into that huge film. But I really like Days of Future Past because it had more of I don't know, it was like a reunion of sorts, and everybody was at a hotel together for a long period of time in Montreal, and we had more time to interact, whereas on the first and second I didn't have that much time to sort of interact with some of the actors, and this gave me the ability to actually sort of chat with them, get to know them a little bit better. Plus being in Montreal in the summertime is fantastic.
And if they offered you in the future a reprisal of Colossus on screen, would you take it?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the character is fantastic. I mean, which actor would say no? I mean, the only reason that I didn't go for Deadpool is because of there was some things offered and wanting from me that were not in line with what I wanted to do. And so ultimately I knew the way it was going to end up, and I knew I wouldn't be happy with that. And I knew I was only doing it for a paycheck, albeit, I'm not going to get into details, but
Yeah.
ultimately I would be really disappointed with what I had to do. And I sort of had that inner monologue with myself saying, sometimes you have to be okay with just walking away with something and saying, hey, I did a really good job in my opinion, and had a chance to do all of those 3 movies and let someone else take the reins. And it also enabled me to go watch Deadpool as a fan and be like, this thing is hilarious.
Yeah.
Do I like what they did with the character? No, but that's not my choice, because that's whoever's acting it, and that's whoever's creating it all CG. So
Yeah, I mean, I definitely prefer your portrayal because it's a lot more real. Do you know what I mean? I know that's strange to say because you turn metal, but but yeah, your portrayal is a hell of a lot better than the Deadpool one. But going into stunts, because not only do you act, you're doing quite a bit of stunt work, in various projects. Which one do you find more fun? Do you find the acting or the stunt work?
Right, they're both different in the aspect. Obviously, they're different, but they acting. I find that I can really immerse myself into the emotions and the character, and I can have fun in that world.
Yeah.
But in stunt work, it gives me that physical sort of I don't know, that it reminds me of playing sports. It reminds me of all the work that goes in with rehearsal and then shooting on the day, and you're working with a team. And a lot of the stunt has just really come out of the fact that me being 6'6", there's not a lot of guys who can double me. And so it's easier a lot of the times for the coordinator to say, hey, you want to do your own stuff? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I'll do it until it doesn't look great, and then hire someone who can make it look way better.
Yeah.
So but it's also the industry is you got to keep working. Like you just can't stop working, and I like it. So I'm kind of,
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, the stunt world is very unappreciated. It really is. I mean, I've interviewed Jack Gill, who's a legend within the stunt community. You know, he's a stunt coordinator now, and he was a stunt coordinator on Bad Boys and Fast and Furious and films like
Right.
that. But he also
You know,
doubled.
those small franchises.
Yeah, they're the tiny little films.
Yeah, exactly.
But he was the stunt coordinator on Knight Rider, and he was the guy that drove the car and Bo Dukes. So he's been around for years. And I was chatting to him, and we're chatting about how unappreciated they are and the amount of work that they put in that we see on screen. For those moments, we don't realize it's a stunt double. You know, with the stunts that you've done, you know, have you ever got injured? Because obviously now you've got a family. Has your priorities changed in the way of putting yourself at risk doing stunts?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in the past, you know, the whole thing about stunts is to be as safe as possible. You know,
Yeah,
we want to mitigate, you know, accidents and injuries as much as possible. That's the whole point, is to have performers constantly working. But at the same time, they look rough because sometimes they are. And I've had, you know, tweaks and pulls and separated shoulders and little things like that. But, you know, I've been fortunate. I've seen a lot worse. But yeah, it's an interesting world right now, the stunt world, because with all of these films and TV shows, they have become such a major part. And in some parties, they would argue that they're extremely underappreciated, and that there is still a very strong hierarchy where the actor is top of the heap, along with the creative side, the directors, the cinematographers, and the stunt performers are way below. And
yeah,
that's reflected in the fact that there's not as much financials for a lot of performers. There's not as much help after the fact if somebody's really, really badly injured. But I hope that that's all changing.
yeah,
I view it, I'm not a producer, but I view it that there is enough money to go around, and that everybody can have a little piece of the pie. And if you are putting your body on the line and you are working that much, that closely, and contributing that much to a film, then I think you should be rewarded for it. That's just my opinion. But yeah, there are chances where you hurt yourself, and you know, like you said, as a father, that changes things. You know, back in the day when I was 20 and early 30s, I'm looking at doing these ratchets where I'm flying through things and into things at a pretty violent speed, and I'm gung ho for them. Nowadays, I'm kind of saying, do I need to? You know, especially if I'm doing the role as an actor, can we bring someone in to do that? Because I don't necessarily need to do that.
yeah. And also, you get in trouble with the wife, I presume.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
she's pretty good. She's pretty understanding. She's seen it all. I've been pretty resilient in that world, but then at the same time, I'm still, you know, constantly seeking treatment to kind of fix my body from other injuries. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard on your body, but it's I don't know, that adrenaline rush and that rewarding sort of physical acrobatic and performance in the sort of physical realm. It's quite fun.
And what's the best, you know, project you've worked on doing stunts?
Ah, I think it would be my first real crash course, no pun intended, in stunts was Alien versus Predator Requiem.
Right. Okay.
And I came on to basically, they had to have an audition to find some acting doubles for the Predators. So if they had to shoot the Predator in two places at once, they could have someone else do some work. And I ended up coming on board and doing an audition for it, and it ended up going to another performer who was a little bit taller than I was. And eventually I got a call from them saying, hey, like, I know you mentioned you want to try and get into stunts. We have a ratchet, which is basically a wire attached to you on an air-powered ram that sends you flying in the direction that the pulleys are angled. And I said, sounds like fun. And I went and rehearsed it, got into the suit on the day, and went flying out of the sewer into this wall, crashing down. And I got the gig for the rest of the shoot. And next thing you know, I'm working for 3 months, learning everything you can about the stunt world, and as much different stunts that would have taken years to learn, I'm getting it all, nonstop, and had an amazing team around me who were really experienced stunt performers who were guiding me and saying, "Hey, do this, try that, do this, change this." And I still think about that and how much fun I had.
So technically, you was a predator.
Technically, I've been a predator twice.
Yes. So without even knowing, because I've interviewed Ian White, who was a predator.
That's who I doubled.
And I've interviewed Brian A. Prince as well.
Yep.
That was a predator on the most recent movie that you worked on as well. And you were a predator as well. I was
the mocap. I don't know, ultimate predator or super predator or whatever you want to call it. So I was running around in a mocap suit on 5-foot stilts.
Right. Oh wow.
And doing a lot of the motion and creature work for that guy who ultimately was CG'd in. But all of these, like, the majority of it was me just running around with there were some other performers in town who would sort of jump in for various parts of it. So there was like, I think 3 or 4 of us that were kind of bouncing around working on that.
And other stunts that you've done, which I think is going to make your son pretty proud in years to come, is Master Chief from Halo. How cool was that to put on that suit? Because it looked absolutely amazing.
The suit was beautiful. Legacy Effects down in LA built it, and it was. I remember when I went and tried it on. I flew down there to try it on, and at one point, it was one iteration. It was all this sort of flat satin black. Yeah. It hadn't had any of the green added onto it. I thought it was the coolest because it had a Oakley sort of orange tinted visor on it, and it was this flat black. I'm like, I want this, and then they told me the price, and I was like, nah, I'm good, man. Yeah, that was a fun project. I signed on for that, not really knowing because there was so much secrecy surrounding it. Came up and worked with a stunt coordinator who had worked with a bunch, who now is a director, James Bamford, who's a super talented guy, and he sort of had requested me, and we just for what was ultimately sort of a promo video for the 4th game, they went all out and we had a blast. And the final product I felt was really cool. The fans, I think the fans dug it as well.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I know the fans were screaming for more, and I know they're filming a new Halo series currently. So I think everyone's looking forward to that coming out.
I remember auditioning for it.
Did you really?
Oh yeah.
Oh damn it! How do you feel? What do you feel like when you get a part that you really want, but then you don't get? I mean, do you just forget about it, or?
Well, the funny thing is, I think younger I was, the harder it would be to forget about it because you become so invested in the role and the what ifs. I think ultimately you only have control of creating something interesting and unique in that small window, which is either taping at home or going in for an audition. And after that, you don't have any control. And so you just kind of have to let it go. Yeah. I have my problem always is if I put something out that I'm really proud of, and then, it goes down to the wire and goes to someone else, and what they did wasn't really quality. I mean, that's the nicest way to say it.
Yeah.
I get frustrated because I'm like, I know I could do this and that. I could have done that better, but that's my competitive side. And someone else didn't think so. But I really enjoy it when I lose out to something and I see the actor do something totally different and totally unique and something I didn't even think about. And I love that because I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, all right, that inspires me. But it's hard. I had an audition for Jack Reacher over the break, and the ultimate role that any tall performer or any performer in general would like to play. And it was for the lead for Jack Reacher. And I put something out that I was just so proud of. And then that was right at the beginning of COVID. And then halfway through, they wanted more tapes. So I sent more, and I was extremely proud of those. And I think it just, it didn't go my way, and that's totally fine. But I think for me, just becoming more mature in who I am, I was just proud of myself that they see more than one tape and they wanted to see my stuff and they liked it, but not enough to go my way. And ultimately I'm like, okay, that's all I can do.
Yeah. I mean, I read somewhere as well that you auditioned for Superman Returns. Is that right?
Yeah.
And was that for, I presume, the part of Superman? Because, 6'6". Christopher Reeve was 6'4" because he was a tall fellow as well. I could see you as Superman. I'm a massive Superman fan,
Oh,
and you know, even though
sorry about the
Brandon Routh.
siren.
Oh,
Sorry about the
you're right.
siren.
It's fine. It's fine.
Oh, okay.
I mean, even though Brandon Routh did do a good job, you know, he was very much like Christopher Reeve. So it would have been quite
Right.
refreshing to see someone that didn't portray it as Christopher Reeve.
Right.
And obviously that was done by Bryan Singer as well from X-Men.
Yeah.
So let's move on quickly because I know
Sure.
time is chasing us. And
Always.
moving on to Twilight. I
Hmm.
think every teen's and mother's favorite movie series. And I saw it. I saw in an interview you said that Twilight fans are a lot more aggressive than X-Men fans, and
Hmm.
I can see why. Because when I mentioned that I was interviewing you, I've got a friend called Holly
Hmm.
that is Twilight mad. She went to all the premieres,
Right.
stood there for hours in the rain,
Good for you,
and
Holly. Hi, Holly.
and when I said who I was interviewing, she was like, "How dare he? How dare he hurt a hair on Pattinson's head?" You know,
That's right.
and you know what? Good for you. Good for
Thank
you.
you.
I enjoyed that
Appreciate it.
scene. I really
Oh,
enjoyed that
thank
scene.
you. I take it as
Um,
such a compliment when I get accosted by the fans because I'm like, oh, I know I did my job all right.
yeah, exactly. And there was some confusion in the casting because originally you were supposed to be cast in a small part, arriving on a bike or
Yeah.
something like that, and you turned up and it
Yeah.
was the part of Felix, and you didn't realize.
Yeah. So the funny story is I had just lost out on the 11th hour. I'd signed papers and contracts and everything for Spartacus, and I'd
Yeah.
lost out to Manu Bene for Crixus. And I was dejected. I was just down in the dumps. And my agent said, "Hey, I've got an audition for Twilight." I at the time had no idea what it was. It's just a 1 day or 1 or 2 day, it's half a scene kind of thing, half a page of dialogue. Go in and just go for it. And I was like, you know what? All right, I'll just go have fun. Walk into the room, and I look like nobody in the room. Everybody's these sort of like 5'9", coiffed, sort of Abercrombie Fitch models. And so I go in, audition, have fun with it, just goof around, get the casting director to laugh, leave. I get a call from my agent a couple days later. Hey, they need a call back, but they only have this short window. And I was working on another show at the time. And so I had half an hour, and I got there sort of with a bit of a revised audition of what I want to do with that scene. And the cast director, oh, we're just waiting on a camera. Just okay. So here's what this vampire does, and I was like, huh? What vampire? I'm here for the guy that tries to pick up Bella outside of a bar. Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! We got the wrong side. So we had to impromptu sort of workshop it with the casting director, and we put something on tape super quickly. And I had to take off to go work on this other job. I felt bad, so I filmed it on my own time the next day and sent it back to the casting director saying, hey, if this is any better, let me know. And next thing you know, I got the part and had no idea who the character was, had no idea because everything was very cryptic and there wasn't even the real character name in the audition. So I had no clue. And next thing you know, I'm in 4 or 5 films.
Wow. And you know what? You're set up for conventions now. I tell
Yeah.
you what, Twilight fans are going to go on for years.
I think
You're going to
they
be 80
overdid
years
though.
old. You're going to be 80 years old doing that
Yeah.
scribble of an autograph.
Right. I think they oversaturated the market so bad that I don't think there's any conventions left.
So you play Felix, the high-ranking member of the Fultari Guard. How cool was it to play Felix? Because it was a very powerful character indeed.
It was a blast. There's
Yeah,
nothing better than just playing a character who can do what he wants.
yeah,
Ultimately, can just tear anybody apart. And to walk in with that sort of power and presence and that real sort of animal side of a human,
yeah,
that was fun. And everyone has their opinions on the movies, but for me, it was a fantastic journey. We got to go film in some beautiful locations. I got to meet some really cool friends, people who are now friends, and couldn't be part of a huge franchise.
yeah.
I sometimes pinch myself. I'm quite a fortunate actor.
And what was your favorite scene to film? You know, of all the movies that you were in, which one's the favorite?
Of the
Yeah,
Twilight movies.
yeah,
For me, it was filming the exterior stuff in Volterra, Italy,
yeah,
because we were in Montepulciano, and for me, I got to travel to Italy and work a couple days, but be there for like 5 or 6. And I fell in love with Italy and just the countryside and the people and how beautiful it was and the food and the wine. And I mean, on someone else's dime, are you kidding me? It's like a
yeah.
dream come true.
I'll have a few more, please.
When am I going to fly? When am I going to fly from Vancouver to Italy on first class? Like I'm not paying for that.
And when
Kidding me?
you was filming, you know, did you get any crowds coming up to you, or was it very secret? Because I know a lot of productions they use a
It
different
was
name for
nuts.
shooting. Was it nuts?
It was nutty. Oh yeah, it was crazy. But again, like this was the second film, so no one really knew who anybody was of the new actors, and so they were kind of like looking. And for some reason, as tall as I am, I seem to sulk into a crowd quite easily, and people don't really notice me all that much. They just think, oh, that guy must be some athlete or an ex-basketball player or something. So I was able to kind of slink around and not necessarily get mobbed by some of the other actors were like basically locked into hotels and stuff like that. So I got to
Yeah.
have fun.
And would you change anything about the way that you played Felix at all?
No, not really. I think you just gotta, at the time, these are the choices I made and just go for it. And I was pretty happy with it. I mean, I don't think there's, would I have wanted to maybe have more consistent hair throughout the whole movies? Yeah, probably, but it's just nitpicking.
And who was the most fun on set? Who did you get on with the best?
Charlie Bewley, who plays Dimitri, we kind of ended up being two peas in a pod.
Yeah,
Just goofing around a lot and just having a blast because we both came on at the same time
yeah,
and still remain friends. I think it was hard for a lot of the leads because of the fandom. They
yeah,
couldn't have as much fun as some of us that have come on for the second or third film. And for me, I'm not that was a perfect opportunity. If you wanted to be an actor who really used that sort of popularity for yourself and to sort of achieve larger fan followings, whether it's on social media or get other jobs because of that fan following, it was a really good opportunity. And that's never been my MO. I don't really want, as much as that I know that popularity on social media can give you jobs and give you leverage.
yeah.
It also gets rid of your privacy. And that's kind of a thing I've struggled with my whole time. So for me, it was kind of nice to kind of slide around and not,
Yeah.
throw myself out there and take photos of myself. And this is where I'm in my location. So fans come running. So
Come find me. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, what's the scariest thing that you've seen from fans? I mean, obviously, yeah, I presume you got a lot of grief from the fans, as you said earlier. But what did that look like? Was that letters? Was that messages
No,
on social media?
yeah, social media, face to face kind of things. But it was all in good fun. I mean,
Was
everybody
it?
knows. Yeah,
Good.
I mean,
Good.
I'm also like, I'm not gonna. I don't think many 5'4" women are gonna come and yell at a 6'6" man that
You'll be
really come
surprised.
after him.
You will
Yeah,
be
that's true.
surprised.
That's true.
And then obviously we go on to conventions. Have you got any virtual Comic Cons planned? Because I know a lot of stars. So I interviewed Jules State from Firefly, another
Right.
Proud Canadian, and
Yep.
she's doing a lot of virtual Comic Cons because obviously they're not happening. So have you got any
Yeah.
planned at all?
Not any virtual right now. I've got a Comic Con in Timmins, Ontario, but that's for next year.
Yeah.
Ultimately, majority of them were all physical appearances, and then they went away and were planned for different times. But nothing on the virtual world.
And what do you like about doing conventions? Do you like doing them?
I do, because
Yeah.
I think that's for me, that's the best way for me to control fans and sort of get to know them. Because I think everyone can see you from past work and sort of have their idea of who you are. And I'm a bit of a chatterbox and I don't mind chatting with people. And so it gives people who normally weren't a fan or didn't even know who I was or didn't associate me with characters I've played, and they get a chance to kind of get to know who I am, and I get to go to some cool places. And you know, it's a win-win, and at the same time, like we talked about earlier, I get to get 7 hours of sleep. So like, I can't complain with that.
It is exactly like me when I go away for work. It's like
Right.
everyone wants to stay in the bar and have a few pints.
Oh,
I'm
I'm
like,
not. I'm done.
I'm like, no, I'm going to bed. I'm
Yeah.
literally going to get a full night's sleep.
Yeah. After that, everyone's like, "Hey, we're gonna have a beer," and I'm like, "I'm gonna go have a Advil night, and I'm gonna pass out and get 8 hours of sleep. So you guys have fun drinking."
And another thing I wanted to ask, because I spoke to Jules State about this, because obviously she's been in Firefly, that was directed by Josh Whedon. And the thing I don't like about the media is that they can stir a lot of stuff up. They really can. You know, as Denzel Washington always says, if you don't read the news, you're uninformed. No, if you don't read the news, you're uninformed. If you read the news, you're misinformed, because
Yeah.
they do really circle that news around. And obviously the news about Josh Whedon and his behavior on set. Bryan Singer is also getting it in the neck by Brandon Routh and other people. I mean, what was your experience with Bryan Singer? You know, did you see anything like that, or is it a case of, you know, they're just very, you know, good directors that know what they want?
The thing is, the hard thing about it is personally, never anything.
Yeah,
But I can't speak on what personally happened to other actors.
yeah, of course.
I heard rumors, but was I ever in the room or seeing them in person? No. So I can't say that they're correct or incorrect, because
Yeah,
then that's a false statement. For me, totally fine. There was
yeah,
never anything. I don't take shit from people, and so that's the way it is. But it was just a professional atmosphere. Did I hear about certain things? Yes, but again, like I said, I can't comment on it. It's such a tricky thing nowadays with just the way the media is wanting to stir up stories as quick as possible. I mean, we're in that sort of digital age where everything has to be new and new and new, and kids are so hooked into that YouTube. Okay, there was 30 seconds. I'm not interested. Move on, move on. And you know, it's a really, really tricky, and we could go on for hours about the
yeah,
state of you know, social interactions and respect to genders and people of color. And it's really, really hard. It's hard to talk about. It's hard to kind of state whether or not someone did something wrong or did something right or what,
yeah.
without actually being there. And so, you know, you can't discount somebody who said this is the truth and this is what happened to me. But again, if I didn't see anything personally, then I can't comment on it.
Completely understand. And before we wrap up the interview, we've got a new show coming out in October. So for all the American listeners and viewers, on Hulu, we've got Marvel's Hellstrom, which looks absolutely amazing.
Fun
That
project.
amazing that Marvel's actually taken their logo off anything to do with it, because apparently it's a bit dark. So what's the show about, in your own words?
You have to be kind of cryptic about it. They're so secret about it. It follows the story of Anna and Damon Hellstrom, and it's inspired from the Hellstrom comic books, the son and daughter of Satan. In this iteration, I can't comment on where they come from and who their dad is, but
Okay.
he's not a nice person. And I play a character named Nurse Spivey, who starts out as one thing and ends up being something else. And that's really about as far as I can go. But visually, it's absolutely beautiful. The writing's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I had an absolute blast being part of it. There's some interesting things going on with Marvel and their television division. I don't know what is
Yeah.
happening. I can't even speak on it because I'm not really privy to it. But as far as a new TV series, I'm pumped about this one.
Yeah. I mean, it's about time they bring out shows like that, because Marvel's got so many characters in their bag. And, you know, I was expecting Blade to come out, because I absolutely think that series of films,
Oh,
even, do you know what? Even
Blade's like one of my all-time favorite.
Oh, it's
The
fantastic.
scene in the beginning of the first Blade when they go into the rave and then the blood starts.
Oh, yeah, the
I'm like,
dancing, oh,
and I thought Wesley Snipes was unbelievable
yeah.
as Blade, and I've always wanted them. And Mahershala Ali, who is penned for Blade, correct? Is it Mahershala Ali?
I think so. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Because
he's
was
a
he the one that did it for
fantastic actor.
Spike? Because there was a channel called Spike that did a Blade series, didn't they, a few years ago,
Yeah, no, it wasn't.
and
That was
it didn't go that
that
well.
was another actor.
Yeah,
No, if it's Mahershala, I'm pretty sure it's Mahershala Ali who is playing Blade,
yeah,
and he is a top-notch actor. So I have a lot of faith. I just can't wait. I wanted to audition for Blade when it was shooting up here years ago,
yeah.
but I think I wasn't allowed.
Oh, what? Why? Is that
I don't
because of
know.
contracts or?
Might have been contracts, might have been the fact that I'm quite a bit taller than a lot of the leads, but
Oh, oh no,
who
it's an
knows?
awesome film. Even Blade
Yeah.
Trinity, that
Hmm.
everyone puts down with Ryan Reynolds and Jessica Biel. I absolutely think it's awesome. To be fair,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so Hellstrom is out in October. I know you can't say obviously a lot about it because you don't want to spoil it, and I'm sure
No.
there's loads of NDAs there to say you can and can't do.
Pages.
Yeah, I bet.
Pages.
And obviously,
Yeah.
Disney is a superpower,
Yeah.
so I wouldn't cross them. But
No.
that's October, and hopefully it will come over into the UK and Europe shortly after. Fingers crossed, because I really want to watch it. But Daniel,
It's fun.
what's next for you then? Before we say goodbye.
What's next? We really, I mean, because of this whole thing, I'm in a holding pattern. The industry's just starting to kick off, and I'm just starting to audition again.
Yeah,
So who knows? But yeah, just excited for Hellstrom to come out, and kind of getting excited for getting back into the auditioning room and getting back to doing what I love to do. So, as soon as I know, then everyone else will know.
and you can have plenty of family time and
Well,
binge watch
that's
Paw
been
Patrols.
the,
Um,
oh,
because literally in our house, it's nothing but CBeebies, which is a channel over in the UK,
mhm.
and it's just cartoons after cartoons, and I just can't wait for them to go to sleep so then I can have my tiny little bit
Yeah,
of TV. But
yeah.
Daniels, thank you so much. Look after yourself and your
You
family,
too.
and I look forward to everything that you do in the future. And
Thank
I'll be
you.
shouting about Hellstrom as soon as it gets a release date.
Perfect, Brian. I appreciate the time,
All
and
right.
all the best to you and your family. Stay healthy and stay
Thank
safe
you.
out there.
You too, mate. You too.